Chapter 1. The Sociological Perspective. Section 1. Big Ideas. Welcome to the exciting world of sociology. You will soon discover that sociology can give you interesting perspectives in which to view yourself, others, and the world around you. Auguste Comte, the founder of sociology, coined the term to mean the scientific study of society and human behavior. Sociology is different from psychology and other sciences because the sociological perspective stresses the broader social context of behavior by looking at how your level of education, gender, age, race, and social class can influence your attitudes and behavior. Do you also realize that your behavior is influenced by external influences such as your family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, and others who play a role in your life? Sociology got its start during the middle of the 19th century, at a time in which Europe was experiencing the Industrial Revolution. With the ability to now mass-produce goods, society transformed from one that was primarily agricultural to one that was more factory-based. People moved from the countryside to the cities. There was major upheaval and social transformation unlike any that had been seen before. These major changes piqued not only the interest of Auguste Comte, but other sociologists, such as Max Weber, Karl Marx, and Emil Durkheim. Karl Marx believed that the key to social change occurring in a society was through economics. He saw society in terms of two social classes, the haves and the have-nots. The bourgeoisie, or the haves, were the factory owners and owned the means of production. They were in control. The proletariat, or the workers, were the have-nots. They worked for the demanding factory owners and had little control. Marx viewed these two groups as being in constant struggle with one another over power and resources. He believed that the workers needed to revolt and free themselves from the confines of the bourgeoisie. Max Weber, on the other hand, disagreed with Karl Marx. Through Weber's observations, he came to believe that religion, specifically the Protestant religion, was the key driver to social change happening within a society. Who's right? The debate continues, as there is support for both viewpoints. While these early theorists were significant contributors, they did not do any scientific research. In fact, Comte was very supportive of the idea of positivism, or the belief that the social world should be studied in a scientific manner. However, he was really more of an armchair philosopher and never did any research himself. One of the first to actually study society in a scientific manner was Emil Durkheim. Durkheim was most famous for his rigorous research on suicide. Among his findings, Durkheim identified social integration as a key social factor in people being less likely to commit suicide. That is, he found out that those who have ties or connections to social groups are less likely to commit suicide. What he's saying is that it's important for you to have family, friends, or others to whom you feel a bond. His research is still widely quoted, and his findings still hold true today. For example, those who are Protestant, male, and single are still more likely to commit suicide. A topic like suicide is not just an individual issue, but one that cuts across social groups. Today, we can use this information to discover which groups may be at higher risk and develop prevention and education programs to help decrease suicide in our society. You may have noticed that we have only mentioned males to this point. That's because in the early years of sociology, the field was dominated by men. Women were expected to devote themselves to their churches and families, and most were prevented from pursuing an education. A few women from wealthy families managed to get an education. Harriet Martineau was one of them. She studied social life in both Great Britain and the United States, and published Society in America, decades before Durkheim and Weber were even born. Unfortunately, her original research has been largely ignored. Sociology took a bit longer to get to the United States. By the late 1800s, it was an academic discipline in universities around the country. In these early years, the contributions of women and minorities were largely ignored. W.E.B. Du Bois was the first African American to earn a Ph.D. from Harvard. He conducted extensive research on race relations in the United States. Even though he was accomplished, he encountered prejudice and discrimination in his professional and personal life. When he attended professional sociologists' meetings, he was not permitted to eat or stay in the same hotels as the white sociologists. Some sociologists, such as Jane Addams, were concerned more with social reform than with sociological research. Both of these disciplines have their role in helping us to understand or change society. Some sociologists who do research are known as applied sociologists. They may work in a variety of applied sociologists. They may work in a variety of settings, from business, marketing, and healthcare to government and not-for-profit agencies. An applied sociologist might work in healthcare to study and improve the services that are offered to patients. Hand in hand with research are theories to support the research. Sociologists use three primary theoretical frameworks. These perspectives are called the functionalism or functional analysis perspective, the symbolic interactionism perspective, and the conflict perspective. Let's say that you and two other friends are discussing abortion. All three of you may have a different opinion, but each of you presents a good argument as to why your belief is the right one. Is it possible that all three of you are correct? Yes. It is much the same way with the theoretical perspectives. There is some truth in each one because no one theory encompasses all of reality. Let's examine a current topic such as teen pregnancy to see how the three different theorists would view this contemporary social issue. While the rate of teenage pregnancy has decreased in recent years, the United States continues to have one of the highest rates compared to other countries like Europe and Japan. Marx would look at it from a macro perspective to examine which groups might be in conflict with one another. In this case, it would be parents trying to maintain control and teenagers trying to be independent. One way that teens may do that is to engage in sexual activity and not be concerned about pregnancy. From the functionalist viewpoint, Emil Durkheim would also use a macro perspective, but he would be more concerned with the groups that play a role within society to help it function smoothly and remain stable. In this case, he would examine parents and schools to find out how well they are functioning to educate teenagers about sexuality, birth control, and pregnancy. With the increase in divorce, single parents, and the economic need for both parents to work, families have changed dramatically. Parents may have a more difficult time being available to their sons or daughters to discuss these issues and to supervise their behavior. Schools face budget cuts, and so health and sex education may be lower on the list of classes that schools are teaching. Functional analysis would attribute these changes as possible explanations as to why the U.S. may have a high rate of teen pregnancy. Lastly, Charles Horton Cooley, a symbolic interactionist, would use a micro perspective to examine symbols in society, such as celebrities. Teenagers may see these celebrities as role models and perceive their carefree, glamorous life as a symbol of what it means to be a male or female in today's society. In our society, sex sells. Also, teenage girls whose mothers were teen moms may have a higher likelihood of being teen moms themselves. To teenagers who become pregnant, the symbol of being a teen mom may represent maturity and being grown up. Even though all three perspectives look at this issue from a different viewpoint, they're all valid in helping us to understand a complex social issue such as teen pregnancy. These perspectives are used throughout sociology to examine and explain a social issue from multiple viewpoints. What is the future of sociology? The American Sociological Association, ASA, is promoting public sociology. It wants the public, especially politicians and policymakers, to make use of sociological data in order to better understand how society works. Also, with advances in communication and travel, national boundaries are breaking down. With this globalization, it is likely that sociologists will broaden the scope of their analysis and research in the future to not only study issues within the U.S., but also worldwide. That's the end of this section.